Today's episode features Amy Jo Jones, who grew up getting her hands dirty on the farm. Amy's family was the first in Indiana to utilize robotic milking technology on their farm, giving her a front row seat at the intersection of Agbioscience and technology. She's a passionate advocate for lifelong learning, and she's going to share how she honed skills on this episode of See Yourself In. Amy, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. We are too. There was a spoiler alert in your intro, but we'll come back to it. You're a lifelong Hoosier.
I am.
I want you to take our listeners back and tell us a little bit about life growing up in Indiana and what's kept you here.
Yeah, maybe not a lifelong Hoosier. I'll say I'm a lifelong Boilermaker.
That's fair.
I had to do that for all my Purdue fans. But yeah, Amy Jones. I grew up in Star City, Indiana, which is as little as it sounds. It's about 2 hours north of Indianapolis in a really small community. I grew up on a dairy farm there, so Star City's population is about 200. Most recently, when I tell people where I'm from, they ask me if it's a Hallmark city, like from a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet, but
Okay.
It could happen.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, maybe a dairy farm. I don't know. But grew up at a dairy farm and really enjoyed that, but knew I didn't want to do that for all of my life. And so had an opportunity, was always a Purdue fan, went to Purdue. I studied there, worked there for a while, and then really wanted to do something different. But I really love the state of Indiana because of all the opportunities that it has, because of the cost of living. It's exceptional here, which has allowed me to honestly be able to afford to travel to so many different places and experience new things that, gosh, I just really like Indiana for a living.
I love that. We're going to go back and unpack all of that today, but I want to start with, so growing up in such a small town and probably going to school with all of your neighbors, like everybody was together all the time, do you remember thinking about what you wanted life to look like after graduation?
Honestly, it's funny you should mention that because when I was in high school, all I ever wanted to do was be a stay-at-home mom.
Wow.
That's what I wanted. So, folks listening, I happen to be 37 years old and single, never married. So, one of the questions at the end that I know we'll address is kind of that your definition of success can change.
Yeah.
And so, I really thought I would be on the farm in rural Indiana, and I enjoy going back. I certainly do, but currently live in downtown Indy, really enjoying it, and not what I would have expected. I think if I would have sat across the table from my 18-year-old self, she would be like, we're where? With who?
Yeah.
Doing what? But really good.
Yeah, well, and she'd probably be like, and you're really happy doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really cool to think back that way. Did you know that college was going to be your post-graduation pathway?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I would say definitely was interested in going to college at a young age. My family is a family of Purdue Boilermakers. So my oldest brother has an ag engineering degree. My sister got an animal sciences degree. My brother went there for art education and graphic design. Wow. So I wouldn't recommend this, but Purdue is actually the only place that I applied to go to college.
Wow.
It was also the only place that you could study agriculture at the time. So
Okay.
as I think about progress, and honestly in Indiana, like the progress of agricultural education from a university standpoint has really grown.
Yeah, tremendously. And we're going to get into that a little bit now because you shared, and we spoiled again in the intro today, that your family was the first in Indiana to have this robotic technology on the farm.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
Yeah, so really got to a moment where hiring folks and having them on hand, my dad will admit he is not a people manager. He's not great at managing people, so I can say that online because he'll agree to it. And we got to a point in our family where the milking system that we currently had was run down. And so my dad has always been interested in early adopting of technology. So he and my mom toured several different robotic dairy farms in the country. We were 10th in the nation, so there weren't that many at the time. And we sat down as a family and really discussed what it would mean for us. It would put us in a financial hardship for a while, but it would increase our ability as a family to kind of keep it in the family. And so even today, my mom, dad, and brother are the full-time employees, and then my sister and I are kind of part-time help. I sometimes call it my National Guard duty because I go up about 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year. But it's been a little bit more frequent and certainly not the same as our National Guard honoring our country and fighting for it. But that's
similar
kind of,
notion.
It's the cadence, yes.
Yeah, similar notion.
I'm feeding, feeding the world.
You are. Well, so, and for those of us who aren't that maybe familiar with the ag biosciences industry, like let's talk a little bit about how maybe as someone young adult, that moment really helped you realize that, oh, this farm is a lot bigger than me and it's a lot bigger than our family.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was in high school, not interested really in agriculture because the dairy, I mean, it's a hard work and it's away from friends, and I'd had to do chores before I could go have fun, and we didn't have vacations, and it just felt like a lot of work. And then when my family adopted the robotic technology, it really brought in this opportunity for ag literacy. So people touring from various countries around the world, almost all 50 states have been to our farm, and having people ask questions like, I thought my milk came from the grocery store, or like, I didn't know there really wasn't a chocolate milk cow. Like those things as agriculturalists, we frequently joke about, but it is true. I mean, even most recently, someone said, like, I don't understand why farmers are harvesting their own corn. I just get mine from the grocery store. There was this whole level of, I think, being in rural Indiana, I just thought most people knew where their food came from. That really opened my eyes to realizing, like, I do want to study agriculture. And that's why I went in and didn't know anything about plants. So that's actually how I chose my major, which is not how I would recommend someone chooses their area of study, but really went into landscape horticulture and design because it was an area of agriculture I knew nothing about. And then moved into ag education as my master's. So got back into kind of people and teaching. So.
Oh man, that's incredible. There's so much to unpack there, but we're going to get to it. So before we go into your career journey and really talk about how you leveraged your education to create a life path for you, I think it's important that our listeners know that, Amy, you work in the ag biosciences industry here in Indiana, which really does have a tremendous footprint across the state. From 2019 to 2021, which is a 3-year span, Indiana's ag biosciences industry grew by $6 billion.
Yeah.
And yet I know there are people listening saying, I have no idea what ag bioscience is. So maybe we'll start with, could you define what is ag bioscience as an industry?
Yeah, I would say, I've been thinking about this, like I would describe ag biosciences as life sciences. So as you think about life and food and clothing and even medicine, I think is an area that people don't often think of or associate with the ag biosciences, but we're thinking about nutrition. A lot of our pharmaceuticals are made from plant products. I mean, we have biochemistry corporations and organizations who are studying medicine, that it's all agriculture. And I think something else that people forget is forestry is a really large part of the agricultural industry in Indiana specifically. We're really known for that. We've got popcorn, we've got ducks. You know, there's a lot of different commodities that the state of Indiana supports in an agricultural function, but also as you just think about the biosciences, honestly, it's really anything with life, plants, animals, people, like that's agriculture in the ag biosciences.
Okay, that's fantastic. And so let's also talk a little bit about, you shared when you were at Purdue, working for Purdue, you did some research that was really important and pivotal in the industry. So let's have you talk a little bit about your career trajectory after you finished your master's and then some of the work that you've been a part of.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, grew up on a dairy farm, bachelor's in horticulture, master's in ag education. So my story goes, I like plants more than animals and people more than plants most days. So after getting my master's in education, I worked for the 4-H Youth Development Program for 2 years. So I worked for the Cooperative Extension Service and then had the chance to go back to campus as a plant sciences recruitment and outreach coordinator. So focused in plant sciences because we knew that there was going to be a talent shortage in that area of agriculture. So getting maybe non-traditional, non-farm youth interested in the ag biosciences. And then I served as an assistant director for the entire College of Agriculture as their undergraduate student recruiter for 2 years. And through my 7+ years in recruitment, I would survey the freshman class coming in and talk to them about resources, why they chose their major, and kind of helped inform me for future recruitment years, but also just gave me really great data. And 100% of the majors, there were 31 at the time at Purdue, 100% of them, the reason they went into agriculture was to make a difference.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's something with our industry, like you can make an impact really in whatever way, small or large, that you want to.
Yeah. Today, Amy, you work as the Director of People Development at Advanced Agrilytics. So how did you make the decision to leave that role at Purdue, and what attracted you to Advanced Agrilytics?
Yeah, so I had been at Purdue almost 10 years and had actually thought about getting my PhD. That with the academic system, if you want to move up, you've really got to get more education. That's part of its kind of function and structure. And I kind of had this moment where I realized I should take the advice that I'd been giving students for the last 10 years of getting out of my comfort zone and trying something different. And so I give myself micro goals every year. And so in 2020, I had interview 3 people who I thought had interesting jobs, not like change jobs, just start looking at what's out there. And I had interviewed a lady on LinkedIn. I'm a huge LinkedIn networking gal. So I'd sent her a note just saying like, hey, can I talk to you and about your job? And she worked in L&D, and we chatted, and she said, gosh, you sound like previous me, younger me. And I said, well, what would you tell younger you?
Yeah.
And she said, go to a scale up. Because in a scale-up, for 1 year of a scale-up, it's like 3 in a larger organization. So you'll learn really quickly, get adapted into industry, and have a lot of different skill sets. And I would say that has been my journey with Advanced Agrilytics. I've been here 3.5 years. I started in training as a training lead, have moved into like a director role now, so director of people development.
Okay, so what does a director of people development do at a company that's focused on agriculture and metrics and analytics?
Yeah, it's a really fun job. So actually, most recently, last week, we just hosted our interns. So we have 36 interns at Advanced Agrilytics, because what we're really trying to do is collect data, meaningful data, to be able to make our algorithms more robust, to build our software, to help us build better prescriptions and recommendations for our growers. So intern program is a huge part of it, as well as orientation programming, goal setting, any company events, learning events, or otherwise, even social. My team tends to host.
That's fantastic. Oh, I love that. Sounds so fun.
It is.
So maybe micro and then zooming out to macro a little bit. I mean, for people listening who maybe weren't on a farm in their childhood, but are hearing things that are really interesting to them, how would you recommend they start getting connected to the ag biosciences industry, or even learning more about what all that encompasses in Indiana?
Yeah, so if you're in Indianapolis area, I think the Agrinovus is a great connection, and CICP, great connections to start doing networking. I know Agrinovus does a conference called Quadrant every quarter. It's a great time to just network and learn new things. I think the other maybe perception about agriculture and the ag biosciences is people think like they can't get in if they didn't grow up on a farm. And truly, the industry is so diverse. There is no way there's someone who knows everything about everything. I'm taking care of my sister's property this week, and she has chickens, and I know nothing about chickens. It's terrifying. I'm not a chicken lady. I am a plant lady, full stop. And so, just start asking questions.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you go to like your local farm bureau, you can get connected. Ag literacy is a huge project. We were just talking about the Indiana State Fair. Go to the fair, ask questions. Folks in the Ag Biosciences body are really interested in educating others and making those connections.
I love that. And what if you're in the industry and you're trying to leverage the full expanse of the industry? I mean, good places to build networking relationships. What are some of the recommendations you might have?
Oh man, that's a good question. Again, Agrinovus is good. I would say, honestly, like using the university system is good too. Cooperative Extension has a lot of connections as well. There's several different agribusiness councils that you can get involved in, both like generally, and there's also a women's specific. There's a few different women in agriculture conferences that are helpful as well. And I would just honestly, LinkedIn is a great source for me too.
Yeah.
This is not promotion from LinkedIn, but really love getting connected to those type of groups as well. I would suggest.
That's fantastic. What I love about your story is that you're so knowledgeable in the ag biosciences field, of course, but I think you also talk about doing work that's people-centric. And I think that's maybe not what comes to mind when people think about agriculture or horticulture or forestry. And so what would you say to people listening that maybe have skill sets that are not in ag biosciences about the opportunity that they still may have in this industry?
Yeah, my first response is we need you.
Wow.
I think that is a huge part of ag biosciences is the need to continue to diversify and adjust. We know that the industry is advancing pretty rapidly. I mean, the idea of robotic milking systems 20 some years ago, it was 2003 that we installed those, and things are just continuing to progress in technology. Think about Advanced Agrilytics and our software system, and using things like aerial imagery. Like the industry as a whole just is moving and needs to move fast because of the growing population and really the pressure to do things more environmentally, sustainably, smarter, more efficient. Like all of those things require a different workforce. And so we need people who are interested in those things. We do need people-y people.
Yeah.
Because agriculture is people too. So how do we get people plugged in into where they fit in? But definitely my first response is just, we need you.
Yeah. So plug in. I mean, I think that goes back to that $6 billion increase over 3 years as an industry here in Indiana. I mean, I think that means there's a lot of opportunity. You just have to connect with it.
Yeah.
What makes you so passionate about this industry, this work, what you're doing?
Yeah, so I would go back to, honestly, the students say it best, all of that data that came in. It's just an opportunity to make a difference. And I think that's probably part of the reason I also enjoy the people side of it. Think about my Purdue days and connecting with a student. I mean, I would come down to Indy all the time to try to recruit students who are interested in sciences to help them understand, like, agriculture is science.
Yeah.
And getting to experience their stories and see where they go is just, it's so fulfilling. So even now as a director of people development, still getting to do that. I actually have they were a student, but now they're a full-time employee. So in their intro, they were like, oh, yeah, Amy met me when I was in 8th grade. I'm like, that's not possible. I'm 25 years old. I don't know. I'm never aging. Really getting to go along the journey. And that's the other thing I would say with Agbioscience is it's a small industry, hopefully getting bigger with more workforce, but it's a smaller industry. So you really get to connect with people and see their journeys as well as the industry's journey.
That has to be so fulfilling.
Yeah, it's worth waking up for.
Oh, I'm sure. Before we go, at the end of each episode of See Yourself In, we ask our guests to share 3 lessons that you've learned on your career journey that could be really helpful for people listening as they either start or navigate theirs. So I will turn the mic over to you for your 3 recommendations.
Oh, man. The first one I would say is don't be afraid to be yourself. I think that oftentimes it can be uncomfortable to just be yourself in spaces. So get comfortable with who you are, and then kind of spaced with that is get to know people who are different than you. I think that's the only way all of us learn, is to be willing to meet others where they're at and learn from them. So it's almost like love yourself, love your neighbor. The third thing I would recommend is trying new things. So I kind of have a life mantra called Camp Try New Things. It's why my sister convinced me to be able to take care of her property this week. It's like, hey, be a chicken lady, try new things, Amy Jo. And I'm like, okay, but never be afraid to try something different, because you have no idea what you're capable of. I think we oftentimes think and put ourselves into a box of, this is who I am, this is what I work in. Like, think differently, and it will really improve your life.
Fantastic advice. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We're so glad that you were able to join us today to learn about Indiana's advanced industries and how you can start or enhance your career journey. Until next time, we hope that you'll be able to see yourself in the unlimited opportunities in Indiana.